Welcome to today's Talk Time. I'm Meredith McCarthy. I'm your host. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist here in Wellington, New Zealand. I love to talk about all sorts of topics. Today we have a very interesting topic. We have Barbara Banner, who is a psychic medium, but she is really working with people who maybe have lost a loved one, and she helps them with that process. And we're going to be talking about grief, so trigger warning. If we kind of go through and we have this feeling of grief, sometimes we might feel desperate to want a message from our loved one. So Barbara's going to be sharing with us today a little bit about how that happens and how she works as a psychic medium. So I hope you enjoy today's Talk Time. So welcome, Barbara, to today's Talk Time. I'm really excited to talk to you. It is interesting, the type of speakers that come on and all the different niches that people have, and your background as a psychic medium and how you got about sort of becoming one, and also how you work with people around grief. And I just, I think for my audience, we are interested in hypnotherapy and helping support people through grief and stuff like that. But there's also that other side, that spiritual side of people, loved ones, sending through messages that can also be extremely healing. Welcome to today. But tell me a little bit about, I guess, your journey so people can understand who you are.
To me until the pandemic, okay? They had put me on ice, just the whole spiritual thing. I had never even meditated when I took my first class. And then I had an awakening, sort of like the paranormal thing with the house, things flying off the shelves, orbs going around, lights flashing. And I just said, oh my gosh, so spirit wants to talk, so I better do something. And I took a class, and I hit the ground running. And later I found out that I've been doing it for centuries, and that my grandmother had juju. So it was all a shock to me. I had no idea this was inside me.
It's always interesting to me what the catalyst is, that kind of takes a person off into a different trajectory that they may not have even sort of consciously been aware of. So that must have been quite a change in how you were, I guess, turning up in life.
Well, I had a wonderful, career in advertising and marketing. And I always liked to do volunteer work. So I picked things that sounded interesting to me. So I was 14 years on a crisis hotline for women. And the training, I had months and months and months of training with therapists and psychologists, and learning all about the different kinds of trauma people would have, and grief and homelessness and every kind of situation that would be a crisis. And that was invaluable. So I spent 14 years doing that, and I really enjoyed it. My girlfriends always used to think I was like the Dear Abby of the group, and they come to me for answers, because I was always very calm in an emergency. And then I needed a little more adrenaline, and I volunteered at Los Angeles's biggest emergency room. And there also, it was just fascinating, and dealing with people in grief and just upset and scared. So that was great. And then came the kicker, when I realized, okay, this is more than just something normal. I became part of the city of Los Angeles's crisis response team. I trained at the police academy and had, a summer full of incredible experiences and training with everybody. So we would get called out when there was a body by the LAPD. when there was a body on the scene, probably the coroner and the police, and the family would come to the scene. They'd call them and say, your son has been in a motorcycle accident and we're here. So the police needed somebody to take care of the parents or the family that came on the scene, because they were busy taking pictures and investigating. So that's what I did for about 6 or 7 years. And my friends would say, why are you doing that? And my answer was, because I can. Somehow I could compartmentalize my feelings and just say, I know this is so sad, but that's not my job here today. It's to help you and to be present for that. So somehow I was good at it, and I'm a good listener, and that really just led me right into, well, there's already dead bodies on the scene. I might as well go the next step. I guess that was, it was definitely divinely guided for me to take that path and end up in that situation.
I guess for me, I'm someone who's had a lived experience of a brother dying when I was only 4 and he was 10. He died of cancer. And understanding the ripple effect that grief has on a family long term, and often parents that lose their child, it changes them. And I think to have that trauma, it's a very deep trauma. It's hard for people to come to terms with the reality, and that deep loss can taint or affect often many decisions that they make throughout their lives as a result of it. So when we think about people seeking support from you, how does that look? You know, if we think about your connection, how you work with families these days, do you want to sort of just share a little bit about your approach so people can understand?
Well, I have a little different approach from many mediums, because I bring laughter and a lightness to a reading, a mediumship reading, because in this, we have to raise our vibration and spirit has to lower theirs. So we have to meet in the middle. And one of the only things that's going to be stronger than grief is love. And that feeling, that deep feeling, and laughter is also one of the highest vibrations. So, unfortunately, many people who have just lost somebody, they feel guilty if they're going to smile or laugh or chuckle, but that is one of the greatest ways to fight, to interrupt grief. Laughter releases dopamine, and that's like a natural painkiller, and then endorphins, and it doesn't take away the grief, but if you have something to laugh about, it interrupts it, so you have a little less pain when you laugh. And laughter also reduces your blood pressure, staves off depression and anxiety. These are studies from Oxford and Berkeley and the Cleveland Clinic that show that there's so many wonderful aspects to laughter. It's like natural medicine. And I encourage my clients to pick out your husband's favorite comedy and have the whole family sit and watch it and make comments and say, Dad, love this part, and be involved in something that is so high vibration and that is so lovely amidst all the sadness and the tears and the grief, to laugh together. And that's what spirit wants. That's what our loved ones want. You know how we would say, I'd give my left arm for my kid or my husband. They don't want our appendages. Okay. They want us to have joy and happiness and love and gratitude for what we do have. That's all they want on the other side. They don't understand jealousy or judgment. They only want for us to have what they have on the other side, which is complete peace. And so that's what I try to do. And I also try to show them that they can do this on their own and have a relationship. I do a little exercise at the end. I've had therapists send me a patient for what I call it Barbara's boot camp. One session. And when they come to terms or believe from evidence that spirit gives and validations, yeah, that wasn't that was real. It can change the way they look at it. It's not so final. They're still around me. How else would you know that, I ran out of cottage cheese, this morning and had to eat peanut butter. I mean, specific things that spirit can give us that they say, oh my gosh, he really was there with me. If you can't change the situation, I just believe you have to change the way you look at it. And so showing them and bringing them evidence from spirit about what they just did or what they were thinking, because they know everything. They know what you're thinking. They can do everything. It lifts them. That's what I always say. I hope you feel a little lighter than you did when you came. And they do. Now I read the room. Okay. So when they come in, if they're crying or, I just adjust the way that I approach it. But most people are so happy to laugh. And I feel that my guides on the other side send me people whose spirit, they were funny. So when I say just 15 minutes ago, I told a woman, your brother is digging a hole in the backyard and he's like putting his arm on it, looking at you. And he said, you did this, you dug the hole. And she started screaming and laughter because she said her and her granddaughter used to dig holes all over the backyard just for fun. We're not even looking for anything. And so those things, they make you believe. And we're not trying to prove anything, but spirit gives you what you need to know now, not always what you want to know. So usually after a good session, and if spirit has done their best and somebody leaves there knowing that their son is with them in the car, so play one of his favorite songs. That's my approach.
Nice. Barbara, one of the first, I guess, standout experiences I ever had with a psychic medium was purely by chance. I was shopping in a crystal store to buy something for my sister's birthday. And because I had purchased over a certain amount, I got this free reading. And I'd never heard of this woman before, wasn't even looking for a reading, I didn't think. But spirit was guiding me to that moment. And the night before, I was having a conversation with my husband about the pros and cons of having a third child. And lo and behold, I sit down and this woman, Sue Nicholson is her name, and she said, oh, your husband, you've got 2 children, but, your husband and you are talking about, a third child and the pros and cons. And I'm like, what?
On the wall, a fly on the wall. It's pretty amazing.
So I went away from that, totally at peace, not having a third child and going, whoa, that was the real deal. That was incredible. And, you come across certain people who pretty, accurate sometimes, but there are times where you just can't deny it. It's just something you can't explain. And I think it's deeply comforting when you can get, as you were saying, something specific that spirit is bringing attention to that only they would know. And I think there's something about that. So for the skeptics out there in the audience, keep your mind open, because this isn't our first rodeo as spirit.
Well, they have to believe that first, that, there is something after this. And
yeah,
skeptics make it much more difficult for me,
yeah.
because the energy is just not really where it should be for the best
Mm.
outcome.
But I think people like you with that gift to be able to bring forward and channel information for those loved ones left behind to grief is really important. That there are certain people who can do the work that you're doing, because not everyone can.
Well, actually, I'd like to correct you.
Okay.
Everybody has the ability to do this, to be psychic and to be a medium. If you have a soul, and I hope you do, that's all you need in the toolbox. And then if you take a couple classes and learn to meditate, and really stay at it, it depends. I hit the ground running when the paranormal stuff started happening, and I said, I better call Ghostbusters or somebody. And I just jumped into it and was doing it.
How would you describe what you experience to those that maybe haven't had psychic experiences themselves? How would you describe what you sense, what you see, what you hear, what that's like for you?
Every medium is a psychic, and not every psychic is a medium, and everybody has different gifts. Some people only have a knowing. They don't see anything. They don't hear anything. I can see spirit. I can hear them. I can just feel them, the knowing, and I can, channel their words and movements. Sometimes they make me move. So I got the whole. I don't smell though, so I can't smell grandma's brisket. But some people can smell as well. So that's when I have a client in front of me, and then I say, I'm having an awareness of, I always ask them who they want the most. Okay. Some people don't do that. They just say, we'll see who comes. I want to cut to the chase. That's who I am. So, and if they say they want their husband, and I'll just describe who's here, what he looks like, and then his essence, and they'll say yes, yes, yes. And then once we know, like, then he'll say something or do something, and they'll say, oh, 100% that's him. There's not even any doubt. A guy will come in doing the marachas like this, and she'll go, and he's got a conga line behind him, I say. She goes, that's my father. And I have a video of that scene that we took on a cruise. He was doing that with the marachas and everything. So, and it's so lovely when spirit comes and does things that they realized. I also can do the facial expressions they give me, like, oh, this woman was not a ball of fire. I have to tell you, she's sitting there with her pursed lips looking very judgmental. I said, that's her. So that's also very helpful. The facial expressions can really, they'll say that's exactly what she would do. So, so I just give them what I'm getting. It's like I'm a reporter. Okay. Nobody, as my teacher said, nobody's coming to see you. They're coming to see grandpa. Okay. So just be quiet and listen. And you're a reporter. Just report what you see. That's it. That's my job. Spirit will tell you what you need to know now, not always what you want to know. That's where the skeptics get us crazy. Like, what pajamas was I wearing 2 nights ago before he died? I don't know, and that's not what I do. And sometimes spirit will tell me, but that's though they don't deserve it. But I understand if you don't know anything about it, that you would be skeptical. I think I would always want to put uh, a little test in. What it's best if I don't know what it is, because then my mind can't get involved. I like it when they say, I'll say, he was just sitting on that stoop smoking and smoking. And she'll say, that's it. That was the thing, because he didn't smoke. So I said, you show me you're smoking and I'll know it's you. Okay. Little things. As long as I don't know about it, then it's better for us. Our mind, our conscious mind has nowhere in a reading. It's just going to mess us up. Because spirit can't make a mistake, but we can.
Do some loved ones try and interfere with their family in some way, in the way of trying to give advice or things? Does that sometimes happen, where they might have very strong opinions about what's going on?
They're non-judgmental. Okay. When you are crossover, you don't judge anybody, because we are all here for the same reason, for our souls to evolve, for us to help others, to learn lessons, experience things. So the guy who's, sweeping up in a taco stand in the middle of the night, he's here. We're the same. We're just at a different stage. Our adventure is different. And if you understand, we're all one, doing the same thing, just in our own special way. I think it makes you a little nicer. I always say, be nice to everybody. You don't know what they're going through or what they went through in their last lives,
So does spirit, can I ask you then, does spirit come through and just say it's okay? Do they sort of reassure potentially their loved ones?
Well, a lot of them, there's a lot of activity right after they transition. A lot of times people say, he came to me in my dream. For some reason, like they're still hanging around a little, they're making sure we're okay, and he'll slip into a dream. But it's very difficult for them to come into dreams because it's such a low vibration. There's like nothing. So they do it in different ways. Some people hear their name being called, a knock at the door, there's different ways. Or I had a woman say she had a butterfly, which I told her, I said, your daughter's a butterfly too. In the middle of winter, she said a butterfly came and sat on her heart for 10 minutes and didn't move. How can you not know that's your daughter? Any other butterfly would be, frozen and on the ground within 3 seconds in the weather. You have to believe before you'll receive. We grew up, seeing is believing. We grew up skeptics. In this gig, you've got to believe it or you're not going to receive it. You're going to look over it and not even think it's possible. But it is. Everything is possible.
I was years ago, my father-in-law passed away and my daughter was about to turn 5. So I got his old sewing machine out, and I thought it would be nice to make her 5-year-old party dress from his sewing machine as part of that. And now it was about 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm here sewing, as mothers do, because there's not enough time in a day.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the sewing machine starts going all by itself. It did it twice.
Oh yeah, they can, anything with energy, electric or energy. They can turn off the TV. They can turn on the lights and make them flicker. They can do so much with anything that has energy, because we're energy.
Yeah, I was talking to my mum, and she's 90, and she nearly died last year, and she's still around. So, however, she said, okay, Meredith, when I go, I'm going to send you a message. And I said, okay, what's going to be that message? She goes, yes. I'm like, I know you know what you mean, but I have no idea what you mean. And they're like, I'm not going to query what you mean by that. But I'm like, okay, you send me that message, yes. I'm like, we'll see how she creatively does that in a way that I'm going to notice. But that's so funny because she said, I just want to then, I'll let you know whether it is something. Because she's been, I guess, a bit skeptical over the years around what comes next, and very fearful of dying. And we've had a number of conversations lately about those matters. And I think she's now come to terms that perhaps there is something beyond, because she started to get visits from spirit when she was not doing well.
Yes,
That she used to tell them to fuck.
That they're
She told them to fuck off, though. She said, go away. She didn't have the capacity to understand what was going on. However, I when I was talking to her, I said, well, next time they visit, say hi from me. And she started to describe, I see this little boy and I see this dog and I see this. And I said, do you recognize any of them? No, I don't. I'm like, that's okay. And then now she doesn't see them. Now she's feeling better. They've all gone away.
Better, yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's interesting.
She probably came pretty close.
Yeah.
Then she got a reprieve.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because they come.
Yeah, but she's been doing a lot of healing work. Yeah, she saw an entity, which I would say was angelic, behind me above the floor, and a very tall, and a male floating, but very, very tall. And that was the conversations that I think was really important for her to understand and normalize, because she couldn't process what she was seeing. It was like, whoa, what is this? I don't understand. And I started to talk to her more and more about spirit and, life after death and reincarnation, and my take on things and how I work, and how, sometimes there are synchronicities where you might meet someone, you go, gee, I know you, but not in this lifetime, but I know I know you. And I had some wonderful conversations while she was in the hospital. And I think all of that journey and making peace with stuff that had happened between her and I over that time, she's really done a lot of healing, which is telling in now her state that she's in. It's quite interesting.
Well, she might enjoy going on to YouTube and and searching near-death experiences, because those will pick a lot of people that were really skeptical, said, BS, okay? When I'm gone, I'm gone. But the stories from these people about they didn't believe in it, and then all of a sudden her mother's on the bed, or then they're upstairs, and nobody wants to go back. That's really what the essence is. That's home. This is not home. The other side is home. And they all want to go home. They all want to go home because there's no bills. Why do I want to go back to Earth? I got a bunch of bills. My wife is a bitch. The kids are taking all my money. I want to stay. No, you're not done with your lessons. We're all here to learn lessons. So you have to go. When you get here, it'll be the right time. So nobody wants to go home. I don't know if you've ever had a client that had a near-death experience and was pissed off that they had to go home. That is really normal. They're angry.
I haven't personally, strangely, I haven't had anyone who has had that experience, but I've certainly read about it and, followed people's journeys on YouTube and like. For me, though, working with grief can be an interesting thing, because often when someone passes, it's so painful that they stop talking about them. and the family, cease to sort of mention their name. And many cultures too, once the person has been deceased, they don't speak of the dead. So there are some cultures like that. And I think it's really important to keep that person's memory alive, because we take that essence along our journey, a part of that person, how they've affected us in
It's in
some
our
way.
DNA. It really is. It dribbles down in.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
interesting. So many people tell me that, after somebody passes and everyone's around you and bringing you, food and everything. And then 3 months later, you might make a comment about your husband, and your friends will say, okay, you got to move on. You got to move on. They're not welcome to keep talking about it. But spirit always tells me, I don't want them to forget me. I want to be part of the family. If you make my favorite dish, spaghetti, set me a little plate. I promise you, I will be there. And they want you to leave pictures around and talk to them and say, come with me today. I love you. Let's go and do some errands. They'll be there. And if they hear a song that they love, because that's something they can do, when you get home, Google it, because it'll be a message for you in there. You'll read through the lyrics and you'll say, I know that's what he wanted to tell me. There's so many messages they're trying to get us, but you got to be open to it.
I often, have a little conversation with my dad that passed many years ago, and, I feel him coming along on the journey with me from time to time. And again, this is really important. I've always spoken about my dad and shared things with my daughter who never got to meet him and things like that. So I think I've talked about my brother, and, they're not forgotten. They're not forgotten people. And my grandmother as well. We've had lots of laughs about what my grandmother used to get up to. Things my mum never knew.
They're so right, exactly. They love to be remembered. I mean, and when you want something, when you need something, guidance, you have to ask. They're not allowed to just come in and feng shui your living room, okay? You have to ask them. And if you have a dream in the middle of the night to move the credenza to the west wall, that was them. But you have to ask them.
Nice. When we look at grief, there are layers that happen in the way of processing it, and sometimes people get quite shocked. I think it might be 5 years, 10 years down the track, and they suddenly fall to bits because and it's not even on an anniversary of the person passing. It might just be something that's reminded them, an echo from the past that's just kind of popped in, and they feel that deep absence all of a sudden. What would you say to people who might experience that from time to time? What would you like to share?
Well, first of all, I have people who come every year on the angel day of like their son or their husband. And spirit does love that because they really look forward to it. Some people, well, you would know better than me. They just can't let it go. They can't, their life stops. They're paralyzed. They just can't move. They're afraid. They say their whole life they've had this person watching over them and helping them, and now they're not there, and they just can't get over it. And I know there's no time frame for what's normal in grief. It's whatever it is. But I think they do say that after like 10 or 11 years, if you haven't moved on in some way, then you really do need a lot more therapy. I tell people about grief, you're going to have to go through all the stages. You can't get away from it. And it's going to take as long as it takes. But the only advice I can give you is go with the flow instead of fighting it. Because Spirit has told me the more people fight anything in their lives, any kind of problems, and just not give it up or not deal with it, it elongates the negative time, that it just stays longer. It's so much easier to say, okay, I'm just going to go with this and be out of it quickly. We have to help ourselves. We have to be tough with ourselves, I think, to really make a difference in our lives. We can't just hope that time is going to solve it all, because I feel like we have to do things in our best interest and make an effort to get over it, to laugh more.
Yeah. But from time to time, I have met people who are so grief stricken that they couldn't go to the funeral. And that
Yes.
might have been their son or their husband or wife, or, just so, a very like unusual not to go, but they couldn't because of the depth of grief. They couldn't face it. Um, that I find really interesting, because then I remember one specific person who said, I went to a counsellor and they dared to ask me how I felt about it, and that was it. I left, because how do you think I fucking felt? They were so angry that a therapist would even dare to ask them how they felt. They were so edgy. And this is the thing, when people are in grief, it's not logical. They're in shock often, and it's moving too fast, and they dissociate. They find it very hard to come to terms with what's just happened, and they can be very out of body at that point. They're just going through the motions, and one minute their loved one is there, and the next minute they're not. How do you see that? Do you kind of come across people who are seeking help
Oh,
from you,
yes.
who have
So many.
perhaps had that extreme response? Yeah,
I there's always common themes, and usually the really heavy grief, just as I said before, it paralyzes people. They just, and when I explain that we all pick our 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 life on this earth before we come. We have a little contract that we work out with ourselves, our guides, angels, masters, to try to see what we need to work off in karma or in enhancing our soul. So we picked certain things, and that includes an exit point. That includes, and so the wife would have been involved in knowing that her husband was going to pass at a certain age. When I explain how it works, as far as we know, once again, it's just sort of pivoting to if you believe there's a higher source, if you believe there's something else, and that things are supposed to happen a certain way, it still's going to hurt. But if you have that faith, because usually, like, what kind of God would kill a 6-year-old boy? If you have that kind of faith, it can help you. I always say, when you go on the other side, there's going to be a whiteboard, and it's going to say husband dying at 52 years old, and it's going to say what you learned from it. What you learned from it, what good it did you in your journey here to expand your consciousness and your evolution of you on the other side. It just sort of puts it's like laughing. It just sort of puts a little stop in how you're feeling, to wonder, why would I have done that? Or what do I think I could learn?
On that note, what's your take on why we have that amnesia in our life, where we
That's
come in and we
That's so easy. There's a past life hypnotist. She's gone now, but Dolores Cannon, who was amazing. Okay. And you're here to learn lessons. You got to try, and you may fail, but you're going to have to come back again. And she said, it's not a test if you know the question. We have to go in it not knowing, okay, I remember we're going to see how much we have to give to charity this week. You can't do it that way. Your soul has to learn it. So that's an easy question for me. I love her. She's the bomb.
Nice. For me, doing therapy, often I am guided to a degree where I kind of hear things or say things where I think, where on earth did that come from, right?
Right.
And it can be extremely profound, and it's hard to explain sometimes when when those things happen. It's spontaneous and it's very poignant to that person. So often I go into a hypnotherapy session and I have no idea what we're about to do until it happens and things unfold. And it's quite fascinating in the way of synchronicities of who you come across and the timing of things. And even if someone's had a really hard time, let's say grieving for a very long time, even that long time is not a mistake either. There's lessons within that, that contrast of suffering. We're not always here to just feel happy 24/7. We're here often to experience deep suffering as part of our growth as a soul as well. So there's no mistakes. And when someone's taken, in your mind before time, they haven't. They've gone and exited.
Exactly when they were supposed to.
Absolutely. And when you have people who have had near-death experiences and come back, often they change things about themselves. They have insights that course corrects what they do next, and it's quite profound. So many people who have a near-death experience, who have been very skeptical, maybe atheist, they didn't believe anything, come back going, well, something happened I can't explain.
And they can change their behavior and say, I better start, working at that soup kitchen every Friday night and donating. I better change. I better stop, abusing women or whatever. There's always Big Brother is watching. Okay. So there's always somebody, and I should know that for myself in my own heart.
With the four, like the stages of grief, there are a few takes on the stages of grief. For you, what would you say are the main ones for those that aren't familiar with that concept?
Well, I'm going to get them all wrong and in the wrong order. So why don't you explain them and I know there's anger. This is your ballywick. I don't explain grief to people. They're in it. Okay. There's anger. There's bargaining. There's
denial.
Trying to find out denial and want to blame somebody. What did I miss? You made me suffer and do it myself. So what did I miss?
That's okay. When we're looking at it, I think it's just normalizing that people don't always just go through them once. And sometimes they can have experiences around the grief cycle that is a mixed order, and also a number of times they might go through that experience. So coming to someone like you to seek support, when we're looking at what you've observed from your perspective, do you find that people then end up coming back to you a number of times, or do you find that after that first session it's kind of clarified or supported them enough to kind of move into that more adjusted state?
It's not
Uh,
that they come to me for grief support. I'm a medium.
mm,
They come
mm,
to me because they miss this person so badly and want to believe that they're still around, watching over them and connecting and kissing the grandchildren on the head every night and tucking them in like a little burrito. They want to hear that. They want to know that. They want, I had a woman who she comes every year at her husband's death. And she always says, the last time she said, I'm just destitute here. She said, I haven't had any signs from him for 6 months. You tell me he's always around me. She said, nothing. She said, I'm thinking maybe he has a girlfriend on the other side. And she was really suffering. She goes,
oh,
if he was really around me, like you say, he will know what show I was watching on Netflix over the pandemic. So that scared the hell out of me. Like, I'm going to have to come up with that. Um, I'm going to need a little help here. Anyway, I never thought that would come out of my mouth. But her husband was here, and he said it was Outlander. So I said that to her, and she said that was it. She said, you don't know how wonderful you just made me feel, knowing that he doesn't have to be throwing butterflies at me and coins and tickling my ear. He doesn't have to. He's still around me. He's with me. He knows what I'm thinking, what I'm saying. He loves me. She said, that's
mm.
that's just all I want to know, because the spirit has a lot of stuff to do. They learn. They have a lot of learning and going to school and ice skating on the rings of Saturn. Whatever they want to do, they can do. So, but every year, and she always trusts me, because I think they've got a little gig going with him, that that every year he's going to not see her for like 3 or 4 months, so that they can make me do a test thing, which I don't like doing, but it happened to work out that time.
Yeah. So you said something really intriguing. It got me thinking. I want to kind of loop back to it. And it's that idea of not seeing spirit in your dream, in the way of they're not visiting when you're dreaming. Can you explain your understanding around that? Because I've not really contemplated that too much.
Well, listen, everybody gets different signs. A lot of people get the same signs, but and people love getting dreams because they're so three-dimensional. They're not like a dream. It's like there's a heaviness. It's like it's hard to explain the difference. I had my grandmother do a visitation dream, and it was a little scary because it was so real. But from what spirit says is and a lot of people try to manifest dreams, come to my dream, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But it's not like, I want you every night in my bed, and I say he's in your bed every night, but it's not going to be in your dream. Spirit loves to hang around in the bedroom with their loved ones as well. Anyway, I digress. It for a spirit on the other side to get their energy so low to get into a dream. It's different than just coming and meeting me and having a chit chat. It's so low, they don't like to do it. They explained it to me like slugging through like wet cement. It's so uncomfortable for them, if they even have comfort. But that's what it was described to me, is that's why they don't just pop in, every night for 5 minutes and say hi. It's too hard for them to come down that low. So that's the
It's
physics of it.
interesting. Yeah. Okay. I remember as a child, my grandmother, she lost her husband in his sleep. So he didn't wake up. He was next to her. And the night that he passed, she had a dream. and they were in the Highlands of Scotland, and he gave her a blue thistle, which is something, which is a special flower, and it really meant something. And when she woke up, she knew already he had gone.
Yeah.
So he had come to her to say goodbye. So when my grandmother shared such a story with me, I think as a child, I never questioned spirit and visitations and things. Yet my mum, who is her daughter, did question things of that matter, which is, I find that fascinating. But I again, grief can taint sometimes through anger, like there must not be a God if he took my son.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
unjust and this and the other. So people
want to blame it on somebody.
Yeah.
You just have to displace that anger, and it comes out like sideways. You could be mad about something. Someone could leave their slipper in the wrong position, on the floor, and you could just go out, just go crazy. And it's not about the slipper. It's just they've just been pushing things down, and it's got to come out sometime.
Look, Barbara, I want to ask you, I guess, as we finish up here, is there anything you'd like to share with people that would be really important for them to understand, that might be quite useful, comforting maybe? What would you like to share?
Well, I like to use the word pivot. If you are in this deep grief and just thinking about your husband who just passed or whoever it is, and it's just overcoming the waves that can come, in the middle of it, if you can just pivot your mind to the love that you felt or feel for that person, to try to change the vibration, to try to just bring yourself up and have gratitude for every hug and kiss and milestone you went together. And even if it's just for a few minutes of reprieve, it will help you. And just as laughter will, and never feel guilty about laughing and being joyous, because that's all they want for you. That's it. They just want you to be happy and not grieve for them long. So listen, do what they want. They want you to have nothing but joy in your life on your rest of your adventure. They're going to see you, as Edgar Cayce says, they're not gone. They just went a little ahead of you. If you can look at it that way, you may have seconds or moments of interrupting that emotional pain. So
nice. So on that note, Barbara, it's been lovely having you on the NZACH Talk Time today. And for those that are interested to know more about Barbara, I will put in the description more about her so you can check her out. And for now, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Now, if you're interested in becoming a clinical hypnotherapist, we've got a new round starting in May the 7th this year. So check out the nzach.ac.nz website, and I'd love to be your guide.